Oh, I came up in my dreams last night, this ideal hybrid work scenario.
Oh, go on.
Okay. Now, it wouldn't obviously fit it's not one size fits all, but it's like one size fits most.
Sure.
So yeah, so here was my thinking. Bear with
Yeah.
me. So employees, considering that they worked 5 days in the office before the pandemic. So we're not thinking of people who've always been remote, blah 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 blah. So this is the baseline. People who worked 5 days in the week in the office before the pandemic and then switched to some kind of hybrid remote model. And now companies are trying to get them back in the office. So the idea would be that Wednesday and Thursday are the in-office mandated days for everybody.
Okay.
And there's one other flex day. So it's 3 days in the office, two are mandated, and one is a flex day any day you want, which is fine. The idea being that people can ease into the week virtually, and by the time they get to Wednesday and Thursday, they're kind of more warmed up and they've kind of chatted to people already, and then they're more likely to have conversations to continue on the Wednesday, Thursday, and they've kind of already been involved with people and stuff. So it's not like you're in on Monday morning and everybody's chit-chatting about what they did for the weekend, blah, 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 wasting time. You've already done that like virtually, and it's much quicker virtually. So there is a higher quality of in-person time on the Wednesday and Thursday. And then also from the company side of things, having people in consecutive same days makes it more fluid from Wednesday to Thursday. You know, they might continue a conversation they had in person on Wednesday and on Thursday. And then also it's just like a higher level of collaboration, having everybody in on the same 2 days rather than just one day or no days. Now, if you're a fully remote worker, and that's completely fine, we're not thinking about that at all. But just that it's kind of higher quality interactions and also kind of less pressure and a bit of flexibility as well if you were going to do the 3 days hybrid work. And that was my thought.
That's pretty good.
Now, it wouldn't fit all, but yeah, the idea of one size fits most is the thing now, rather than trying to do a one size fits all and forcing people in 5 days a week when it doesn't, you know, as your article showed, it doesn't actually equate to higher quality of work. You know, it's higher stress, affects DEI, all that type of stuff. So there has to be some kind of middle ground, considering we've gone through the pandemic and it's been shown, you know, that hybrid work is valuable. And so trying to come up with a way that suits both the employer and the employees while giving everybody a bit of flexibility and higher quality in-person collaboration. So
that makes sense, because like one of the reasons that a lot of the hybrid models are so stupid is because the complaints that people have is like, well, I go into the office, but like
there's no one there.
Half of the people are in different days and blah 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 blah, and so you still end up working remotely, right? Like in a remote environment, you just happen to have gone through the hassle of going into the office on certain like, you know, days as well, just to check the box to say that you've been in the office 1, 2, 3 days a week, however many it is for that company. Which defeats the purpose, right? Because that's it. Like, I mean, like, I love that for a hybrid model. It's kind of like, even in my one size fits most fully remote model, it still involves like a once a quarter everybody gets together for a day, right?
Exactly. Yes, like high quality.
Because you just kind of need just like a touch base to do certain things, right? Certain things are just like do work a lot better in person, especially if you're brainstorming or doing strategy work or
exactly,
so on and so forth. So I think that's great. So if you must do hybrid,
yes, exactly. If
do that,
it's a must. Don't force people to do certain things, or, you know, everybody could be on different days. It just doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
So whether it's like your team is in Wednesday, Thursday, in some cases it could be everybody in the office, so you can like meet with different departments, blah blah blah. That type of thing would be good, because I do find, having been in the office 3 days a week myself, that I do build better relationships with people, and you get to know people better. Like, I spend more time with them than I do my own friends. So, you know so much more about your colleagues than nearly your friends, because you know what they do for work, you know all their personal lives, like everything. Like, so you don't really know what your friends do at the office most of the time. So yeah, I do value that in a way. You get to know people better, and you just get more things done when you can ask somebody beside you, you know, hey, can you send me this or something like that. But not a overall model for everybody, but just like, if you're going to do hybrid, here's an option that, you know, suits the company and can be flexible for people too.
Yeah, it's a good one.
So there's so many RTO mandates coming out now. There was a few more I saw.
Uber.
It's crazy.
Yeah. What I really dislike about big tech, because it's a lot of these big hitters, right, is that these are companies that came up as like startups and for the people and all of that, and now they just have decided, no, we don't care about that anymore. and then also, like, in that, like, they're so, and anything one of them does, it's kind of like being like in like the worst friend group, because the peer pressure and like the contagion of bad ideas is so rife. So like one of them be like, yeah, I'm gonna do RTO, and then everybody's like, oh, like, well, should we? Yeah, I mean, no, like he's doing it, so like we totally should do that too. Yeah, yeah. We'll all do it. Yeah, we'll all do it. Yeah.
Yeah, like a domino effect, and everyone's like, well, this big company's doing it, so they must know something we don't.
Yeah. And in my experience, having worked with, like, you know, when you start working, when you're more junior in your career and you like look up to people or companies, and you think, oh my God, they must be amazing. They must be so experienced. Like, they're really impressive. They've got great credentials, like, et cetera, et cetera. My experience is every time I have met someone that I have put on a pedestal like that, or like learned about a company that I put on a pedestal like that, I have always been disappointed because they never lived up to...
Never meet your heroes.
Never meet your heroes. Because what we always forget is that, like, they're all people
with flaws, yeah,
and they're people, and their company's been run by people, and they're not spending the time. Like, there's no reason why I should think that Uber spends any more time trying to rush through these decisions than any other company I've worked at before that tries to rush through decisions. Like, is Uber any different? Of course not. So they're rushing through decisions they haven't thought about well.
Yeah.
And just to say that they did, and then they'll get a bunch of turnover, and then they can claim that they've saved a load of money.
Yeah,
and then they'll meet their bonuses, and the stakeholders, the shareholders, will be happy, and so on and so forth. And
yeah, it's perception of it. Like, wow, we've saved so much money, but what have we done to ruin
what have we done?
Everything? Yeah, what have we done in general? Yeah, that sums it up pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure we'll have plenty more to talk about, seeing as so many more companies are coming out doing it. But yeah, as you said, higher turnover of people, lower motivation, all those fantastic things.
So welcome to A Word with Yourself. At this point, the cold open, where you're dumped straight into the middle of our conversation, is now a feature and not a bug.
Yeah, it is. I prefer it. Just straight in, surprise them.
We start talking about the thing that we never meant to talk about, and before we get to the topic we meant to talk about. But that's fine. You're just a little appetizer.
Exactly. So we, this week, as a company, Ren Insight Group, went to the Irish Chamber of Commerce in Canada, Toronto's business event. The ICCCTO.
Yeah, a lot of C's in there.
Yeah, there is. And it was all about unlocking the opportunities between Ireland and Canada. There was a lot of delegations there from Ireland and kind of all over the place as well. I saw Sean Gallagher there. You know, Sean Gallagher from Dragon's Den, I think he was, and he ran for president.
Oh, no. I don't know him.
You would. I'll send you a link afterwards. You know who he is. But he was getting a cup of coffee, and I was like, I know that guy.
Oh, you should have talked to him.
No, I was when I was leaving. But I couldn't figure out who he was.
Where you knew him from?
And then I saw his name tag as I was leaving. So yeah. Anyway, I had to run. Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, it was great people there, and it's nice to talk to people in a similar position as you, like business people in Toronto who are Irish.
Yeah.
And
yeah. So one of the big things they're just talking about how to like deepen the ties and increase trade between the two countries, and not necessarily just trade, but like how companies are working together or opening up businesses in the respective companies or expanding into the respective countries. And because they were really highlighting all of the ways that Canada, Ireland have a lot of similarities, but also not just similarities, but just ways that make it like very easy to work with each other, and like close enough in a lot of ways to do it, or at least complementary. Yeah,
kind of both got a welcoming type of culture, very friendly, so the type of makes it a bit easier. I think.
I think there's things like both countries like do value relationships, like business relationships. It's not just transactional. They really value the relationship with those either people or companies. And so that kind of really helps across both of them. And then some differences as well, but I think ways that both kind of countries can help influence the other. So Canada has a mix of it's more US aligned when it comes to a working culture, which is one of the things that we found when we moved over here, which is actually our topic today. It's like, hey, actually, tips and tricks if you're ever moving to Canada as a professional or as a company.
Yeah.
More closely aligned with US working culture when you think about vacation policies, you know, visible time at work being valued very highly as opposed to outcomes, you know, and being a little less kind of tight knit in that sense as well, right? Just kind of more focused, you know, on that work. And I think it's oh gosh, the thought completely went out of my head. But yeah, they're being more US aligned, whereas Irish obviously are more European aligned, where it's really about getting like the best work done as quickly as possible and outcomes, and then having like a good balance outside of work, right? And more kind of European aligned, like vacation policies and stuff like that. And so somebody at the panel at the event on one of the panels said, which is true, which is a phrase we would have heard of a lot, which is, you know, sometimes the Canadians seem to live to work, which is very kind of aligned with kind of the US working culture, whereas Irish people work to live, which is more aligned with the European culture. And it kind of manifests different ways.
They're starting to take on certain aspects of the European culture. I think maybe because there's so much immigration and there's so many more people coming over from Europe. So yeah, kind of doing more work-life balance initiatives, things like that. But they're trying to change what the culture has been for so long. So it's going to take a bit longer. But
and I think as well, the recent stuff with the US is also impacting that. So whereas before there was a sense of trying to integrate more with the US, and that sometimes meant from a working culture perspective, trying to be more like the US working culture, but with the recent events of the last few months, I think the Canadians are really being very clear, which they always have been, but now they're being more vocal about like, no, we have our own distinct culture and we're going to move away from trying to be like the US. We are going to distinguish ourselves separately and be more kind of visual and vocal about doing that, and vocal about doing that. And so that might actually help because it might lend them to be maybe more kind of even more open to be more maybe aligned with some of the European working cultures. And that might actually be a great thing for people's like work-life balance.
Like one of the things I've seen is a lot more companies are offering, say, 3 weeks of vacation or even 4 now, which is something that surprised me when I came over and I got my first job, and they basically gave me 2 weeks vacation, which to us is so alien because in Ireland it's 4 weeks minimum. And one thing I didn't know until I met you actually in the same role was that you could negotiate your vacation here. So I just went over going, oh my God, okay, I'll just accept the 2 weeks. And I accepted the salary as well. I didn't negotiate the salary or anything like that. And then you came in a couple of months later and you were like, oh yeah, I just said, I'd like an extra week and I want this and that. And I got it. And I was like, what? I just like accepted everything because I didn't know that I could do that,
Yeah. I think it was also because that where we were at the time, when I was being hired, I think, first of all, they really needed my role. I think the person who was hiring me really liked that I lived so close.
Next door, literally.
Like, no joke, literally next door to the office. And also, I think he also recognized that he was underpaying me.
Yeah.
And underpaying for the position as well, right? And so when he threw out a number and I said, I was hoping for like closer to this, and he kind of went close to it. And I said, well, I mean, if not that, then more vacation. So it was negotiating because like, okay, we all know you're not really paying me market rate here, so how about you give me more holidays? And he did.
So negotiated like something that worked for you both.
Exactly.
I definitely was being underpaid there by a lot.
100%.
Yeah. 100%. And that I didn't know what to ask for either because you actually do get paid more here.
You do?
So yeah, even the base salary that I got there was still like 10 grand more than I had 6 months previously in Ireland. And over here, that wasn't that much. So I could have asked for 20, 30 more than I actually agreed to. But again, didn't realize the difference in salary because obviously, food is more expensive here. It's all relevant, right? Like rent is cheaper, but in terms of like food and going out and things like that, other things are more expensive. So I didn't know that. So that was a good thing for me to learn from your experience, was that I can negotiate those things.
Well, I mean, the worst they can do is say no, right?
Yeah. And I think we have a thing about asking for more, especially
We
probably
do.
women. You don't want to
Yes.
seem, that you're aggressively asking for a certain amount of money, or,
Yeah.
or it'll put them off. And yeah, I was also desperate for a job, so I was like, don't want to rock the boat. I just
Yeah, right.
I'll take anything, but I
Yeah.
could have. And yeah, so researching like the salaries for those positions, or asking other people, what should I ask for, or something like that, because I just didn't do any of that research. I was so naive going into it. So yeah, that was a big thing for me. I didn't stay long enough to need my 2 weeks vacation anyway, so that
No,
was
you
fine.
didn't. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think I took a
Yeah.
couple of days maybe, and that was it. But yeah, then
You
I went somewhere else.
abandoned me.
I did, yeah. I got 4 weeks vacation in the next place and 20 grand more when I
That's
realized I
fair.
could I could ask for more money. Yeah. So yeah, I was delighted then.
Oh, yeah. I got a lot of stress by staying, but a lot of
Mm.
benefits for staying too. It
Well,
worked
yeah, a
out
lot of
very well.
experience.
Yeah, yeah, it worked
Yeah,
out
yeah,
very
yeah.
well for me in the end,
Yeah,
which
you got a lot of
was
career
great.
growth there.
Yes, yes, I really did.
And a lot of patience building.
Yeah,
It's all important in the grand scheme of
it
things.
is. It
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Yeah,
One thing, do you ever so at home we say put it in the diary
yeah, sure.
instead of but here that doesn't make any sense to anybody. So you have to say put it in the calendar.
See, I'm so used to saying put in the calendar now that
Now,
I
yeah,
don't. I
yeah,
almost
yeah.
can't remember a time I said, "Oh, I'll put it in the diary."
I
But like,
know.
it means the same thing, though. I don't know. Would people be
I know.
confused?
Well, so people, when I said it before, someone someone said that they made them think of me writing in my diary. So
Or like
like,
what they would
dear
call a
diary.
journal.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Like I put it in
Ah,
my diary. So like I go
right.
home and I'm like, today at work, I had a great
Today at
interaction.
work, I talked about planning a meeting. That meeting is going to be 2 p.m. tomorrow. I then put that in my calendar.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tell more tomorrow. XOXO. So yeah,
Oh.
that's what that person automatically went to when I said I'll stick it in the diary, or I'll put it in my diary, or whatever it was. So yeah, reframing it as calendar. Now I would never say diary. So when I go home, eventually people will be like, "Who do you think you are saying a
Yeah.
calendar?" Although they'd probably be like, "Okay, that makes sense too." Anyway, so that's
It's
another
like it
hot
was
tip.
so many little things. It was things like they don't use curriculum vitae CV really
Yeah,
here. It's called a resume.
yeah,
Definitely do research on the market rate for your role, for your job,
yeah,
because and which is a lot easier now with like ChatGPT and stuff because you can kind of they
yeah.
can get a semblance. So there's tools out there too, but
Mhm,
um because yeah, same thing. It's like it's very difficult to know how it translates. And
mhm,
so if you kind of try and find what the market like whatever you were getting paid in Ireland at your market rate and then ask it to translate that into a role
mhm,
in wherever you are, like province,
mhm.
city, or whatever, to get a sense of what it is. But also, honestly, of every Irish person that I've spoken to, every single person has taken one or two jobs in the beginning, underpaid, lower paid, not quite their job,
Yeah.
because getting a Canadian employer on your resume
It's so important to them.
is so important. It's so important, and like they really value that for their jobs going forward. So like
Hmm.
expect to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, just to get
Expect
your
to come
foot in
in
the
at
door.
something. Yeah, yeah. And one of the things that I've done with like other companies before is like don't forget that what you get known as within a company in terms of title and stuff is for the company's benefit. What that needs to be on the outside on your LinkedIn, on your resume, can look different. Like if you're
Hmm.
looking at a different translation of it. So like I remember having a conversation with my boss, be like, okay, well internally I need, this is the naming structure that we have, so you'll be known as XYZ. And I'm like, okay, well, do you mind if I call it this on my
Oh,
LinkedIn? And they're like, yeah, no, I don't care.
oh, that's cool. I would
You
never have
know,
thought of that.
because it's little things. It could be like a
Yeah.
different keyword, right? Like engineer, architect,
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
something like that. Like team leader, supervisors, kind of same thing. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of synonyms out there in role titles, and
Yeah.
sometimes you might want the one on your LinkedIn that hits like ATS and searches better, like those keywords
Hmm.
on LinkedIn, and but the one that's like within your company is doesn't hit those like keywords as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And I find that most companies don't really care what you're putting on your LinkedIn, as long as you're not lying, like as long as you're not,
Hmm. Putting
saying you're doing something
CEO.
that you're not doing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do you
So
mind
you
if I
might have
call
to
myself
go,
CEO?
yeah, do you mind if I do this? You might have to go and like, imagine you're hired as like, oh, I'm a junior, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then you just drop the junior for LinkedIn because that's just how they're doing their tiering within the company, right? And it's not really relevant. So it's just like
Yeah.
little things like that,
Yeah.
that there's more flexibility out there, I think, than people think around some of those kind of things that can help in a
Yeah.
job search in Canada. So
Definitely, yeah,
was
because
like,
they're very big on job titles, like
yeah,
when you're applying for something and looking at your resume.
yeah.
I think I also had to do a lot of temp work when I started as well, because
Mm,
it is hard to get a job without the Canadian experience. And yeah, so like the first 6 months I did temp work through a temp agency, which was great. I actually really enjoyed it. I met so many people. I would go into, say, EY and sit at the reception all day, and
nice.
all they really needed was a person to be there because somebody was sick or something like that, and they just had to
Yeah.
have somebody at the desk, even though I had no idea what was going on. And people would ask me questions, and I'd be like, "Your guess is as good as mine. I
Come
don't
back
know."
tomorrow.
Yeah. When I won't be here.
Yeah.
And so it was great. I mean, like I was only there as a temp, so there was no pressure really. There was certain things they showed me to do, like transfer calls or whatever, and that was fine. But that got my foot in the door into like big companies like that, and then also worked at like a film studio, which was cool, where Schitt's Creek was filmed, and that was just cool to be there and like see all the costume
Yeah.
rooms and stuff like that, which was really cool. And
Wow.
like I did a lot of work there actually. Like they'd call me in the temp agency and they'd say, "We've another week at the studio, like, are you free?" And I'd be like, "Yeah." And then I'd just go out there and work for the week. And there was a couple of Irish people that worked there too that I got
Nice.
connected with. So there's
Yeah.
the no matter where you go and you meet an Irish person, you're automatically like you've known each other for years. And
Yeah.
that would not happen in Ireland, but when you're
Nope.
abroad, it happens. And they're so willing to help out. Like even we saw at the
At the
Irish
event.
event that people are
Yeah.
just like, "Give me your card," or like, "Add me
Yeah.
on LinkedIn and then we can have a coffee," or something like that. Like everybody wants to help each other
Yeah.
out. So getting involved
That's
in networks.
yeah, this is the next tip, is that, well, it's kind of in two parts. One is that networking is key in Canada, and I say that with every fiber of my being, rejecting those words, because it's so antithetical. Even though Irish people, we're so friendly, we'll chat, but
Yeah,
like
but
the
calling it
networking,
networking is the psychological thing.
yeah,
Is like, yeah, it's more just like getting to know people.
it is. But like they over here, it's normal, and
Yeah,
so
it's an
like,
activity.
yeah, and like, so people will go to events, like look in your city and see what kind of events are on. They'll go there to just talk to loads of people and network, and they're not shy
Mm,
about be like, "Oh, what do you do? What's that's involved in? Oh, well, I do this. This could be helpful." Like they're not shy about putting all of that information up front.
hmm
Whereas as Irish people, we're more inclined to be like, let's just chat about where we're from, and then maybe in two conversations
Yeah,
we'll
if
talk
it's
about what we do for a
natural.
job. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. They're a
yeah,
lot
yeah.
more upfront about it. So it's not what we would see as cringe, right? Or what we might see as being a little uncomfortable or a little too forward. That's very
Yeah.
normal here. So you
hmm
kind of have to get comfortable with doing that
Yeah, you could be a
and
bit
put on
uneasy when people
that
do that
face when you do
first.
it. And then the second part of that is the Irish network internationally, to your point, is incredibly helpful,
hmm
and and way more and better than what it's like in Ireland for obvious reasons.
hmm
And so yeah, they'll always try. I mean, I met a couple on a plane.
Oh yeah.
We got stuck in a queue with each other in Pearson because all of the automatic machines were down. We were queuing with each other for like an hour and a half. And they lived in Ireland. They were at some point planning to move to Canada, like in like 9 months. And so I took their details. Since then, I had talked to a recruiter. I was like, "Hey, these people are like the people that you hire." They've since chatted, and I
hmm
think gotten an interview in that place. Like,
hmm
but that's what Irish people do, right? Is
Yeah.
like you just meet someone random, like, "Oh, I think I could help you with this person."
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to
Mm.
tap into the Irish network abroad.
Because we're so
Um,
proud of each other, even if we don't know each other. We're like, yeah, I know this Irish person that can
we're
work
only
there.
proud we're only proud of each other outside of Ireland for some
Oh
reason.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know
yeah, yeah.
why it is. Because if someone
Yeah,
come up to me in Ireland, I'd be like, "Who's that?" Like,
yeah, I don't know what it is,
we're not
but
friends.
yeah, yeah.
But here it's
But
like,
it's great.
yeah,
It's lovely.
yeah, yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I had another point about that, and I can't remember what it was. But sure, it'll come back to me.
Yeah.
Oh, no, what it was just a random, like it can be all sorts. It doesn't have to be like networking events or actually like reaching out to business people or anything like that on LinkedIn or things like that. But I was buying stuff to furnish my apartment when I got here first, and there was this app called Buns. Do you remember that? It was like a trading app, so you couldn't buy things, but you could trade things.
UNZ.
Yes,
Yes. Yeah, I
yeah,
remember.
yeah. And back when we had tokens for the TTC, like I would like trade things for tokens, or because I didn't have anything to trade because I just moved
Yeah.
here. And there was this woman that I bought like a lamp off or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but her profile said marketing. And so I bought the thing off her or whatever. And then when I got home, I messaged her and I was like, "Oh, I see that you got marketing in your profile. Like, what do you do?" Well, I just moved here. Like, any advice? And she was the marketing director at a law firm.
Wow.
And she then hired me to do some admin work for her.
Wow.
It was great, and I did it from my apartment. It was like a lot of Excel stuff, like, you know, just kind
Yeah.
of basic admin-y things. And I worked for her for like 3 weeks straight, and like got like a good enough paycheck, you know. Like I moved over here with some savings, but like to get some extra cash,
Yeah.
it was great. And then I met another guy that she knew and had a few coffees with him, and did another bit of work for her later on as well. So I just saw her on LinkedIn, actually. She's working for herself now. But it was just such a random connection that you just have to take advantage of it and just
Yeah.
kind of be cheeky and just be like, hey. So yeah, because people are always, if you're asking for their advice, people are always kind of happy to give it, because you're kind of saying like, hey, you know so much, like help
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
So like in my experience, most people are willing to advise or whatever on their experience, and you know, if you're asking for it. So yeah, don't be afraid to try different ways of meeting people.
I do find as well that's good, like in those situations, like a compliment from an Irish person seems to go further. And I don't know, is it because when we do it, we're so genuine about it?
Yeah, don't just
Uh,
throw them out for no reason.
yeah, like, you know, I mean, I again, someone I'd met, but she was Canadian at the Irish event. I talked to her a bit in it, and then afterwards we ran into each other again. Afterwards, just like in the lobby outside, and
Yeah.
I goes, you know, you're so good at this, and I was genuine because
Oh
she's like
yeah.
working the room and she's telling people what she does, but she was very like taken aback, like in a good way, like, and she was like, oh my God, like, do you think so? Like, good, you know.
That's very
And
Irish. To be
she
like,
has
really?
since, yeah, I know, she has since connected me with like 2 other people.
My God.
Yeah. So like it does
Yeah.
help to just be like genuine about it. Mm.
Yeah. And then there was another thing I've also forgotten about. Of course. I mean, so I could talk about this for Ireland.
Hey, I think one of the things to watch out for, like the working culture, is something to watch out for. So because Canada favors the US working culture, which is time and effort rather than necessarily outcomes, like be prepared for people being in the office like for like a long time. Well, what will feel like a long time.
Yeah.
And but also within that, be prepared for what you think is something you could do in an hour or two really well will take 2 days. And that, I found that really jarring when I moved over, because when I moved over, I was doing project management. And so like at that point had a fairly well established sense of project management and how quickly projects move and how quickly tasks within that project, you know, will advance and finish. And when I tried to just do exactly that again in Canada, everything took 2 or 3 times as long.
Timeline has got extended.
Yeah, and I think what it's like, it's a kind of a natural it's a natural consequence of the working culture, because longer hours equals a lower quality work over time, because people get burnt out, and it's hard. And then also, like, if you know you're kind of have to be in the office regardless, like, why go out of your way to do more work in that time, right? It's kind of a natural consequence of that culture. Whereas what I found when I was working in England at the time, but like also in Ireland, is that, you know, if you're in and you are like a powerhouse and get all your work done really well and really quickly, that's valued really highly, even if you're you know, fucking off at 4:30 every day.
Yeah. Nobody cares. Like,
yeah, people are like, no, like their work is great, it's done.
Yeah.
That's fine. And so there is an incentive over there to do high quality work quickly and efficiently, and then have the time outside of that for, you know, your life.
Yeah.
Whereas over here, there's no incentive to do that, because you're going to be there regardless. And then that has a natural consequence. So what you might find, this works well in some ways, because you can come over and be very impressive in your role quickly because you're used to that like kind of momentum of work, and they're not. So you can suddenly impress very quickly. However, you have to watch out then for absolutely burning you out, because you do that to enjoy your life outside of it, but you can't maintain that like high quality, high efficiency of work for as long as they like to work here.
Yeah.
Because then you'll get burnt out.
Yeah.
So
and they might start to expect that from you, like,
and then
8 hours a day.
Exactly. And that's just not like feasible from a brain perspective. So you do kind of have to strike the balance of being able to turn that on when you want to maybe like impress people, but also like do manage your time and your energy well to kind of fit in more with the working culture that's here.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because can like do absolutely great work here. It just takes like a little bit
It's just
longer.
a different approach
It's
to
just
it.
a different
Yeah,
approach.
it's a
Yeah, it's a
mindset,
different
you know,
approach.
that you kind of need to change, because
Yeah.
I feel like we do things as quick as possible, or not as quick as possible, but like we focus for a time and get something done, that we get it done quicker. And but then over here you're filling the rest of the hours with more stuff then,
Right.
you know, or you're just dragging that thing out over a longer period of time, whereas like, I just get it done. But then
like we'll both do maybe the same work in one day, but like we'll do it in 4 hours and they'll do it in 8. You'll still end up with the same product.
Yeah,
right.
But the perception of working longer,
the perception is different, so it's incentivized those different working patterns.
Yeah. God, the amount of people I've met that like work till all hours at night and are sending emails in the morning. I'm like, oh my God, like just prioritize your time better. And but it's that culture of always on. That is concerning, but it is getting better.
It is getting better. I think they recognize, and I think COVID has really like locked into people's psyche as well, that there's more to life. There's a lot of funny videos, I think, on some of the like cultural differences, but that it's important to know what they value. Right, because then that will affect their perception of you and your career and like how you're advancing. And if you want to do well, it's you can't. I have tried to like enforce European and like Irish systems onto places, but to not a lot of success.
No avail. Look, slowly but surely, you can't do it straight away. Yeah. Could you get them to move lunch to 1 to 2 rather than 12 to 1?
Never,
because that was a very big culture shock. Yeah, and prepared to be hungry in the afternoon because you've had your lunch at 12 rather than 1.
Because it's not like they're finishing early to then have an early dinner.
No, it's just you just have to work for 4 hours straight then instead of 3. So that extra hour is a killer. So it's crazy. I don't know where the 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock lunch came from, but it is not my vibe.
No, it was it's interesting. Very interesting.
It is. It's certain like little tiny things like that. Like it's not that huge of a deal, but it just changed. It just they are small things, but they can mean a lot because some people will come over and work in the same way, which is fine. But like then they won't understand why they're not maybe succeeding in the way they should, or people aren't really viewing the so it's important to know what they value so that you can choose then how you proceed. Right. Exactly. God, I wish I knew all this and I came over first.
Yeah, me too.
But look, hopefully it'll help somebody else. One of the other things that now I tell people if I get like an Irish CV or whatever it is, that you need to have a Canadian address and phone number because it automatically signals to people that you're not in the country and ready to work. So even if that's using a friend's address, and then an email instead of a phone number or something like that, but just kind of indicating like I'm here, I'm ready to work. Even if you're coming over in like 2 weeks, say, or something, you can say I can start in 3, but I'm here and ready to go. But
also like you don't have to put your address on your resume. To be clear, you can just like all that's on my resume is Toronto, Ontario, and I don't even live in Toronto anymore, but it's where most of my work happens, and so it's most applicable. Right, if people are looking at what we're doing,
it's just simple for people to see.
You a lot of the put your address on there.
A lot of the forms that you fill out now require you to put in like it's required.
Some of them do,
yeah. So I've noticed that like when I was job hunting. So if you put in like say County Kildare, Ireland, they're like, why are you? I know you're coming over, but like you're going to be straight off the boat. You won't have any experience. Blah 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 blah. It's just.
The thing is like it's not even that the companies are wary of because Canada's very welcoming. To be clear. So like incredibly welcoming, and it's more the fact that the visa process is incredibly tricky, and the company sponsored visa process is a real heavy lift for companies, and most companies don't do it for good reasons, like genuinely very good reasons. You really kind of have to be a big conglomerate to have the capacity to do sponsored visas for people, and so most companies don't. So it's not that they don't want to hire you as an Irish person coming into the country, right, or whatever, because they actually would probably love that. It's the fact that if they see you not here, they're worried about having to do a visa for you, and so you might be turned down just for eliminating that risk, right? Because they won't have the time to go to ask everybody. So you do see also in a lot of those forms, like I've seen them, is like there's a lot of questions on the online applications. It's like, will you require a visa to work in this location at any point in the future? Which is I've seen that pop up a lot, which is trying to mitigate this as well. Yeah.
And the tip there is like basically just avoid pointing out that you're not in Canada just yet, right? It's not that they're going to be like, oh God, we don't want to hire a person in this country or anything like that. It's just making it easier for you to get your foot in the door to an interview, rather than just my
first address in Canada was a hotel. So,
whatever, as long as
because
it's
that's where so you know what I mean. So it's not like you have to have
yeah.
like a
Mine was an Airbnb, like, so yeah, it's all relevant. You have to start somewhere, but it's just a good it's just a good tip if you want to get an interview quicker or get any interviews, before you get over here, kind of start setting yourself up.
Yeah.
Any other tips? I have loads.
It's not so much a tip as an observation. I was never a big drinker anyway in Ireland, because I don't like a lot of it.
Enjoy it.
And I'm a bit of a lightweight by Irish standards, or I was. I found myself when I moved to Canada massively reducing that even more, because the culture is incredibly different in, I think, a really, really good way. And so you will find that, like, you go out for dinners and all that kind of stuff, and everybody will have a drink, or anybody who is drinking will have a drink, but they'll have one, and then maybe they'll have two if you happen to be hanging around for longer, and that's it.
Not always a session every time,
and that's it. Yeah. So like, people do drink in loads of circumstances, like, so there's always somebody having a beer somewhere, right? So it's not like people don't drink. People are always drinking, but like, they just don't have a lot of it. They'll just have like a couple and then like move on with their lives, which is really, really nice. It was actually really refreshing. And what has happened as a consequence is now, like, I went out I went out with my dad drinking one of the times when I was back in Ireland, and like, when I tell you I cannot handle my alcohol anymore.
You're still probably more able to handle it than North America.
I'm like, they're going to take my passport away. It's mortifying.
Oh God, I don't know if we can work together anymore.
Like, I'll have like 2 ciders and I'm tipsy. Like,
a little buzzed after that.
Oh my God, I'm buzzed. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. If you could just maintain that buzz without having to drink more, it would just be perfect. It only lasts for an hour max. And then you're like, ugh, I either just have to go home or keep drinking and make a fool of myself. Yeah.
So there still is the same. I mean, I think it depends on where you are, because obviously we were both in Toronto. We'll say the second T for the basis of an audience looking to come over. The other thing you need to know if you do ever move to Toronto is that you drop the second T.
Oh my God, I just heard you say that there. Yeah, Toronto. Oh, I'll never do it.
Toronto.
Toronto.
There is still a going out for drinks culture is still very, very popular, widely accepted. It's just there's not a go out and get drunk culture. That doesn't exist.
To it.
It's different approach to it.
Yeah.
It's also expensive. So like, who has the money to be going out and getting drunk?
No. Yeah. No, there's less of a pre-drinking culture.
There's In fact, I would say there's almost not a pre-drinking. There's no pre-drinking culture.
Let's go straight to the bar. I'm like,
you go out to enjoy your 1 or 2 drinks, and that's and the company and wherever you are, and you enjoy yourself, and then you go home.
Yeah. And there's a lot. The patio season here is great for going out for a couple of drinks and stuff. Yeah, so that's if you're coming over and you haven't heard of patio season, it is basically from now, say middle of May until end of September, early October, I would say. Yeah. Where there's just, they call them patios, we would call them beer gardens, but you're not allowed to smoke is the only thing. Whereas you are at home in a beer garden and you're not allowed to smoke in the patios here. But it is like pretty much the summer culture is patio season. So that's nice. Going back to networks and things like that, actual business tips, not patio season, but getting involved. Now, I when I moved over here, I didn't want to get involved in like Irish, GAA teams and things like that, because I wanted to kind of spend more time with Canadians and things like that. So trying to find clubs that you can join, say like I joined a couple of softball teams with an Irish friend of mine. That got me really into just the community of Canadians and other people as well, but there's like fewer Irish people that would get involved in softball just because we're not really that familiar with it. But that opened up so many like things for me, just like advice, just meeting so many different people from all over Canada, all over the world, and just kind of getting involved in something that is like Canadian culture. It's American too, but it's Canadian culture too. So I met a lot of different people that I probably wouldn't have had I not done that. So that was great. But on the other side, then, I did miss the interaction with Irish people too after a while. So, then joined a GAA club, and you can join them as social members too. You don't have to join them as actual players. So we've a lot of people who don't even play. They just come along for the social aspect of it. And that as well, like, I think everybody is aware that like the GAA club opens doors to things everywhere you go, no matter what country you're in. So yeah, even if you're not a player, you can still get involved. and, you know, meet people. And yeah, I've met so many people. Like the Irish community here is huge. Everywhere you go, you see somebody. You're just like, wow, big Irish head over there. Like there's just people everywhere. So yeah, getting involved in networks, be it like a, you know, a Canadian club, you could join, I don't know, like a running club or a chess club or anything like that, because I've met people through chess clubs too, which is great. And yeah, it just kind of opens up your network and gets you more involved. And yeah, so any type of club, be it Canadian or Irish, but specifically coming over first, I would recommend joining the Canadian clubs more so that aren't full of Irish people, because you just kind of get too comfortable, I think, in the Irish community when you're over here, and then you end up hanging out in like Irish bars all the time, only with Irish people. It's like, you know, what's the point in being here if you're not going to explore other cultures, other nationalities, and the things that people do here for fun. So yeah, have a look and see what type of clubs are out there, and then maybe join a GA club later on.
Yeah. I think that's right. The one of a lot of people, if they're coming over and they feel disconnected in a big way, you're right. It's not just joining the Irish ones. I mean, because they are great and they really help to kind of keep some of that connectiveness. And sometimes, honestly, you do just want to chill out with
Irish people.
Yeah. We were talking about this at the event. We're like, it's just like we're funnier in Irish
to each other as well. Right?
Yeah, we're more. But like it is also important to start putting roots into Canada as well. Like you know, you're here for a reason, right? And Canada has a great expression where they talk about how the US is a melting pot, but Canada is a mosaic. It's not a melting pot. So they're not here to make everybody conform to like the same like there's no real definition of Canadian culture per se, because they welcome everybody's different like individualities and like diversity of like cultures, and everybody kind of coming together. And so it is very valuable to Canada, I guess, as a country, that you come in as an Irish person with your Irish culture, but then you also do make yourself like en route into your communities around you as well.
And like I think so you should, you know, like you're moving over to this country, like, you know, you can't just take that for granted and just like just only do what you're used to, you know, like you're coming over here and, you know, why not get, you know, experience it all and get involved if you want to stay, especially.
Oh, I have another great tip.
Okay.
Have a list of places in Ireland in your head that you will recommend for people to visit, because you will be asked.
Yeah.
You will be asked. So, and it's one of the first ways a lot of people will engage with you is like, oh, you're Irish. Like I have Irish ancestry, or I'm going to go visit Ireland, or I have visited Ireland, or like something like that. Which is great. Like people love the people and they love the culture, so like that's the country, so like it's wonderful. But they will ask, you know, where should I go if I go there, and you need an answer. So come up with a few places.
And not just the stereotypical
ones.
Yeah. Go to Selbridge, County Kildare. Bustling metropolis.
Meet Leslie's family.
My mom would love that. People coming to visit. But yeah, no, you're right. People love to talk about it, and like they might have just been there, or they might have been there 20 years ago, and they say, I was in Ireland 20 years ago and like I loved it, and I went here and here and here. So yeah, just be prepared to to talk about it, because and I love talking about Ireland, even though I left. But I'm like, it's amazing.
One of the things I think Ireland and Canada have in common, which is important to know, and I think it can help like understand it a little bit better, like the country a little bit better, is and they talked about this in the business event as well, is that Ireland and Canada both have really strong tech scenes that are like not visible enough on the global stage. Right, because it's so predominantly occupied by like the US and even like the likes of, you know, kind of Germany and stuff, and so like there's kind of like a commiseration almost between Irish people and Canadian people. It's like they're doing such good things, and there's big tech scenes, there's big entrepreneurial kind of like environments and ecosystems and like incubators and like highly educated people and all of those kind of things in both of the countries, and we're always really trying to like, hey, like we're here and we're doing this, which I think is a great similarity between the two countries, that exists. right? And that maybe people don't seem to be as aware of as they should be, is
Yeah.
just how thriving like the tech scenes are in both countries, and the startup scenes and the entrepreneurial kind of environment. And I think that's really useful to know, to tap into both of those. Yeah.
Yeah, because you automatically think tech of Silicon Valley or something. You don't think of Ireland and
Yeah.
Canada. I don't know why. Like, are we too modest, or we're just not marketing ourselves well enough? Who knows?
We're just smaller.
Yeah,
I
it is a
think in a lot of
smaller
ways we're just
market.
smaller.
Yeah.
Also, both countries have a history of like people leaving there to go to the US to do their thing, because that's where a lot of the money was and the investment is, right? And we're seeing more investment in funds and stuff now in Canada and Ireland, but obviously predominantly the most of the money is in kind of Silicon Valley and New York. So for now. And so like you'll find a lot of Irish and Canadian people in tech in the US. Right. So if you imagine if we all stayed kind of like how massive, but even more massive the tech scenes in Ireland and Canada could be, if we really kind of rooted into, both of them, honestly.
Yeah.
No,
it's a good opportunity for both.
Yeah.
To work together.
Yeah.
One thing I was thinking there as you were talking, I don't know why it came up, but when you're doing interviews here and things, people are very vocal about their achievements.
Yes.
And whereas we're very modest, about like, oh, well, I did this, it was fine.
Yes.
But here they're like, I led a team and I achieved blah, blah, blah. And I'm the best person at this and I'm educated in this. And they're just more upfront with their achievements and kind of selling themselves. Whereas at home, we would find that like, oh, somebody has notions or they're full of themselves or whatever. But it's just getting over that because everybody else is selling themselves in the interviews. Like, doesn't matter. Yeah. Like, it's not going to stand to you if you're modest or, there's a degree of, you can be a bit modest, but also, really explain your skills and things in a way that competes with the people who are really, really doing the hard sell. And so, don't be embarrassed to talk about your achievements.
I did have someone kind of call me up on that once, because I work primarily, so I'm in operations, but I work primarily with tech companies. And so I have a lot of technical knowledge, even though I'm not a coder, right? And I'm not an engineer. And so every so often I say, oh, look, I'm not technical, but and blah, 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 blah. And I used to just say that a lot. I thought, just kind of this very much Irish man. Like, oh, well, I'm not technical now, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, you want to oversell yourself,
Right, yeah, it was this kind of thing. And then someone came and goes, you keep saying that, but do you know that that's not true? And I was like, oh,
what
no,
do you mean?
I do know it's not true. Sorry, I need to explain Irishness to you.
What I meant by saying I didn't know that much about it was I know quite a bit about it, but I'm not an expert.
I actually know maybe almost everything, but I'm not. I can't technically do the thing myself right at the time. But like, yes, I do know exactly what you're talking about in this meeting, and I do know how to direct it. Yeah, thanks very much. But so it was just quite funny. It's like, oh yeah, I know and then I kind of explained it. This was so it was quite funny.
Expecting them to understand what we're saying, even though we're saying the opposite of what we mean.
Yeah. So like, the thing is, the Irish modesty will undersell yourself. You will undersell yourself, and that subtlety isn't picked up here. So it's not common in the kind of like language, I guess, of how people talk to each other. Yeah. And so like the networking thing, you do have to get comfortable with in those interviews and stuff, like putting yourself out there and saying what you're good at.
Yeah, exactly. And saying exactly what you mean. Don't leave any room for interpretation in things, because I think because we're such a small country, we get the nuances and things we say, and just kind of like tone, facial expressions, all that type of stuff, that we understand what someone's saying, even if they're saying like, oh, I'm not that great at it or whatever. And somebody here would take that, literally, like, I'm not that great at it. But like, that's more of a modesty thing in Ireland. I'm not that great at it. So like, you're kind of saying, I am great at it, but I don't want to brag.
Yeah.
So it's just knowing those kind of little nuances there is helpful.
It is.
Yeah.
That's that. I think we should probably have a different session of, like, this was specifically for individuals. I don't think we have enough time to get into companies.
Oh,
maybe we'll do another one on like companies moving across.
Definitely more that
things
we can talk
to consider.
About there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll never stop talking.
Never.
No one can make us stop talking.
For better or for worse.
So we'll be back next time with more stuff.
More stuff. Do you have a pet peeve this week? Or
I don't.
something?
Do you?
No.
I never even thought of it. Maybe I've run out of pet peeves.
That's great.
Yeah, maybe it is. We've exhausted everything.
Yeah, I think that's lovely.
So yeah, maybe next week I'll think really hard.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good chat.
Good chat.
All right. Bye.